This is an intro. Intro.
Hustle and float chart with your boy, my boy, Matt Wolf, Joe Fier.
Hey! It's a great day. It's a great day to be alive. How you doing, Mr. E-Flow?
I'm doing great. I mean, I'm happy because I'm in San Diego, and we just got the news that we picked up Juan Soto. We're big baseball fans because it's really the only sport we got here in San Diego.
Hey, you know what? When our team is finally willing to make a run for the first time in our lifetimes, I'm ready. I'm all in, baby. So, yeah, it's a good day, and it's great because we're back. We're live. If you're listening to this recording, you missed out on a cool live experience that everyone is about to experience. So make sure to always check us out on Tuesdays, 11 a.m. Pacific. We go live on our Discord, on Twitter, and probably some other channels in the future. Who knows? But if you're listening to us on the podcast, thank you. And we always like to hear from you as well. So go follow along on the other channels and make sure that you're actually in our Discord and hanging out with us. Best way to get into there is hardfork.gg/alpha. That gets you onto our alpha list, into the cool crew, and we're hooking you up with all sorts of giveaways and cool alpha early gameplay access and all sorts of stuff. That's the place to be. So hardfork.gg/alpha, and then follow the rabbit hole that way, and you'll soon find Mr. E-Flow. And Matt, tell us what we're doing today on the show, and maybe some other shout outs before we get this podcast started.
So one other little bit of housekeeping. I want to remind you of two other things. This coming Thursday, we've got another Hard Fork Radio with the Crypto Buffalo himself. He's going to be spinning those sweet beats, and by spinning, I mean pressing buttons on his stream deck so that music plays in your ears. But he is going to be doing that DJ thing. Last time we listened in all day long, and it was a blast. So make sure you join us on Hard Fork Radio on Thursday at noon Pacific, I believe it is.
Nooner. Yeah.
And always keep Thursday, we're going to be doing another LFG Live. LFG Live 6 is Thursday the 11th. So mark your calendar for that because it's going to be a good one.
Oh yeah. And so let's tell the peeps what's going down on this episode, and then we'll kind of give some shout outs to some new partners of ours, some new people that we're bringing into our crew on the Hard Fork Gaming team. And on this episode, really, we're just chatting about it's more the behind the scenes of what we've been doing, and really that's like Matt was alluding to earlier, that's us just pulling the curtain back on everything we're doing, because the audience, you got some business background, or you might be an entrepreneur or a marketer or affiliate marketer. You might be from Web3 or a game studio that's listening along. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. And it's really cool because we get a lot of you to reach out to us now. So anyone who's reached out as a result of listening to us on the podcast, the audio podcast that feels so hidden away in a lot of senses. Like Matt, you were calling out some folks earlier because no one thinks that there's Web3 gaming or metaverse blockchain podcasts out there. Boom! I was trying to censor myself, but that failed. BS. We're here. But yeah, it's really cool to get the feedback, and also it's great to share what we're learning and experimenting with at Hard Fork. And this is our opportunity to share our mad scientists experiments we're cooking up in this house. I don't know. We try everything, and we're not afraid to share.
No, we try everything, do we, Joe?
We try everything.
I'd worry about the sound bites there.
Maybe we, yeah. This thing's live, huh?
Yep, we're live right now. There's no backtracking on this thing.
Carrying on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so this Hard Fork Radio, no, this isn't Hard Fork Radio. This is Hustle and Flowchart Live. With Hustle and Flowchart Live, you're getting behind the scenes, right? I mentioned this before we started recording, but I'll mention it on the recording. This is really our behind the scenes show. This is where we talk about how we're growing the community, how we're doing the marketing, how we're, growing followers on Twitters and YouTubes and TikToks and OnlyFans and all the places that we're growing audiences.
Those are Matt's experiments, by the way. So yes, that's what I was referring to, but he told you what it was. So there you go.
Yeah. I mean, OnlyFans is a big growth lever for us. Big growth lever. Emphasis on the big.
That's what she said.
On the big lever. Okay. What were we talking about again?
I don't know, man. We're behind the scenes. There's a lot of behind the scenes, and yeah. And if you didn't know, we are in this studio house mashup thing. If you want to really know behind the scenes, we're together in this studio every single day, and yeah, I don't know. This is the beginning of interesting things to come, I think, at Hard Fork. So Yeah, we're gonna keep it real, but that's where you're seeing a lot of live stuff come out from us. We have the opportunity to kind of sync up everything we're doing here, so you're seeing the podcast live, you're getting the LFG lives every 2 weeks. We're gonna go to weekly pretty soon, probably after the summer wraps up here, and Hard Fork Radio, and then we have also a bunch of cool stuff in the community we're doing with folks. Let's give a couple shout outs because we've been doing a lot of content lately. We've been shouting out new games. There's all these different games coming out that you can play or tournaments. There's a couple partners that we work close with, so just give them a quick shout out. That's Animoca Brands. They have a whole bunch of games. They're investing. They're creating games. You have MotoGP Ignition that just came out. And Bingy Bananas has a tournament going on, this little big giveaway. So both of those, go jump in there, MotoGP and Bingy Bananas. Bingy Bananas is actually a free-to-play mobile app thing, so it's pretty cool, and they're just giving away Primate tokens. It gets 8 tokens as
Joe
like
was
an
playing it
easy
for like
swap.
an hour yesterday.
It was pretty dang addicting, I'm not going to lie. It's one of those, like, take it wherever you go, and you might be in the bathroom a little longer.
Joe's just a big fan of bananas, and he was hoping that the fake bananas would translate to real bananas because he just wanted the bananas.
I was very hungry that day, yesterday. Yeah, didn't bring my lunch, but there were no bananas, so I was left hungry.
That's true.
But I collected a lot in Bingy Bananas, so that was the point. I guess I succeeded. Yes. So Blockchain Space, shout out to them too. We do a lot of content with them, and there's a lot of folks we bring on as a result of them because they know a lot of the builders in the gaming metaverse space, and we're trying to get the real talk out of these folks and let you know the trends in alpha where you should be paying attention to. So Blockchain Space is doing some cool stuff in this space, so we partnered up with them on a lot of stuff. So go check out them and Animoca Brands. They're doing fun stuff. And check out the conversations we're doing on YouTube, so go subscribe there. That's all my shout-outs, Matt. Where do we start? Let's get this going.
So couple shout-outs. We got some new team members. We got Alpha Scout Dwayne Moffitt, who's joining the team, and it's awesome. If you want to become an Alpha Scout, make sure that you are in the Discord. And there is a little section inside the Discord called, what do we call it? Work with us. Yeah, go to that Work with us section. Or if you want to be private and tell us in secret that you want to be an Alpha Scout, you can actually just open a support ticket. And nobody else will see it. But yeah, if you want to be an Alpha Scout, those are the people that are going and drumming up the information that we're sharing on our weekly or our every other week right now, LFG live shows. Buff shouting them out on Hard Fork Radio. We shout out some news on Hustle and Flowchart from time to time, and most of that info is coming directly from our Alpha Scouts.
It's so cool.
So, we're always looking for Alpha Scouts. We're also looking for help in other areas. We're always looking for good editors of video and audio to take all this content we're creating and help us chop it up, which is kind of a good segue because that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about content marketing and the systems that we're currently building here at Hard Fork Gaming. That's been a big topic of conversation in our weekly team meetings is how do we systematize stuff? How do we make sure that the stuff we want to keep happening keeps happening day after day, week after week? How do we consistently not only keep our content at a high level, but actually level it up every single time we make a piece of content? How do we make it better and better? So that's the kind of stuff we're going to talk about today is really our sort of content strategy combined with some of the systems that we're building. So
perfect.
Excited to dig in because this is a big conversation. And then also we have some snippets, if you will. Is that a good word for it? Some snippets.
Two. Yes, we have two guests. They're joining us. That we have MetaSports, the current CEO, Joe at MetaSports, talking about esports and content marketing. He's a big proponent of content marketers, or just content creators, and also obviously what comes of content. Usually it's marketing. He basically is super bullish on content creators in the Web3 space. So this is where we're going to put a lot of focus on content creation and what we're doing with our experiments, with the types of content we're creating and the systems behind the scenes that might not be so visible, because we're taking a lot of the stuff we've been doing for 15 years in digital marketing and all these other niches online and applying them here. So we figured might as well share it with everyone, including other KOLs in this space, other brands, game studios, whoever's doing marketing and creation of content. It's so valuable. So Joe from MetaSports has talked about that from his perspective. And then also we have Nifty Q from LADZ City, and he is also a content creator. He's been in the space for over 5 years, has a great perspective of where we're at currently in like this bear market in crypto in this space, but also the greater perspective of gaming and how it relates to content. And he shares some of his plans as well. So we're going to be rolling that clip. And yeah, so
let's dive into some of the stuff we're doing here at Hard Fork.
let's do that. Yeah,
so there's really two segments here that I think would be kind of interesting to talk about. So we've got the systems and some of the systems that we've recently built to kind of keep this machine running and also growing, and some of the stuff that Jake over at I was going to say Jake over at Steak Farm, Jake from Steak Farm is helping us with. So we've got that section, and then I've also wanted to kind of talk about how we're handling our own content creation in this bear market and some of the strategies around how we're consistently cranking out a ton of content and where we're going with content. We were just sitting in the other room this morning, pretty much like every morning, we all kind of arrive at the compound here, and we sit around, we pour our coffees, and we kind of spend the first 45 minutes of every morning, sipping our coffee, talking about what the big picture for the day is. And the last few days, it's really been around some of these systems. How do we automate this stuff? How do we make sure stuff doesn't slip through the cracks? So that's what I want to dig in on today. So do you want to start on the system side or the content side? Let's start on the system side, because some of our roll-in clips are more on the content side. So I think it'll just kind of keep that flow.
Okay. Well, hit me with what you got first, and then I'll roll with what you lead with here, Matt.
Yeah, so one of the things that we started doing, and this was a brilliant idea that I believe Jake brought to the table.
Brilliant.
I need a toasty that says brilliant. And if you don't know what toasties are things like...
should have played Mortal Kombat more is what you should have... What you got?
Yeah, or like this one.
This is KTIT, K-Tit, playing the best tunes in town.
Yeah, we call those toasties, because remember when you played Mortal Kombat and every once in a while you do a good play and like a little guy would pop up and go, toasty.
That was the creator, wasn't it? Not just any guy. He was like, you did a good move.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, no, that's our reference, toasties.
So we call them toasties and go, toasty. So one of the things that Jake brought up in our recent team meeting was, let's sort of open source a lot of the content creation that we're doing here at Hard Fork, right? So Joe and I, every week we're doing Hustle and Flowchart. Every other week we're doing LFG Live. We're making these blockchain conversations interviews. We're going to start doing some Twitch streams. We'll get into that kind of stuff in a few minutes here. But we're sitting down and we're pressing record and knocking out a ton of content like all the time, right? And we don't even have time to go through all the content we're creating and edit it up and clip it up ourselves. So we're sitting on stockpiles of content that we've created that have actually never even been released. So we thought, you know what? We're getting people respond to our call outs for editors. We're getting people say, hey, I want to be an editor at Hard Fork. And, we're sitting here going, well, how do we vet these editors? So we just give them all projects and see what they do. And Jake had this idea of, why don't we just give them a Google Drive folder, put a whole bunch of videos that Hard Fork Gaming has created in it, and then just make that folder accessible. So if anybody wants to go and try their hand at editing a Hard Fork video, they can just jump into that Google Drive folder, pull some of the assets that we put in there, some of the video and audio and images that we put in there, and they can edit together a video and send it to us as essentially their application to be one of our editors. So we're kind of, and then also the content that anybody creates in that process becomes content that we can also spread into the world and, help support the creator of that content. So it's kind of got this double purpose thing where they sort of help vet themselves for us so we know if they're a good editor, but also they're creating content in an open source way that we can then go spread around. And that was something that Jake brought up on our meeting earlier this week. And we were just like, that is something we should definitely do. Let's open source this shiz.
It's totally a community approach to this, and we're sitting on a lot of content, and yeah. So basically, if you go to our community tab or our work with us tab in Discord, for instance, our idea is to work with all sorts of folks, whatever the skills that you want to bring to Web3 and collaborate with us, and however you want to give to this space, because that's kind of this, and you'll see Nifty Q, one of the clips we have later on, he's talking about how this is it's kind of like like we're all on the same continent in a way. If you compare it to the meat space, it's like, how do we all support each other and support the Web3 ecosystem and all the projects and people inside of here? Because we all have different skills. We're not all just writing code and building stuff that way, or even building content, but you can build through editing and all these other ways of giving the skills or maybe learning a new skill. And that's why we keep shouting out people like Dwayne Moffat, who is helping us out in a lot of stuff, and Jake from Steak Farm, and all these other folks. Hash Rhymes is in here. I'm seeing, Spike we've had chats with. He's another KOL. So there's a lot of ways to collab. And basically, with this editing thing, we're like, hey, go work with us. You can take all of our assets and a lot of the LFG Live clips or segments that we've done. You could probably take some cool things and maybe put your own spin on it. Maybe put some game footage on there, or who knows? It's a big experiment. So we'll see where this goes. It's almost like the meme contest. We just kind of like put some ideas out there and we're like, let's just see what happens with this content. So
yeah, and it's not just video either. We have our hard fork logos in there. We have our little hard fork knight dude in there. Any graphics that we use in our business, we're throwing those in there too. So if you want to make some sort of interesting image meme that we can share on Twitter or wherever, like, that's awesome too. We're always looking for thumbnail creators for YouTube, right? Like, there's an art to creating really good clickbaity thumbnails, right? So we're looking for people to help us create those YouTube thumbnails from time to time. Grab the images we've got available and put something together. See what you can come up with and send it to us. And if we like what we see, we can probably provide some ongoing work for you. So we're trying to Creative Commons our content, right? Is that the right terminology?
I think that's what I tossed out there yesterday. Is if we could provide the assets that other folks might want to go create with. I mean, that's the whole thing. That's why those Creative Commons exist. Is like, hey, someone just record all this footage. Now you can go slam it together however you want. I don't know how this is gonna work out, but the point is, if there's folks, if you're an editor, if you want to take some of the content you've been seeing us produce here on Hard Fork, or if you have some ideas, like, we're totally open to suggestions. We're just throwing spaghetti at the wall right now. So if that sounds interesting, point being here is now we have a system that we can create more content out. So, and all these are ideas. We don't want to talk at you this whole time. It's like, if you have a business or something, take it and run with these kind of concepts. This is just what we're experimenting with. So this is one of them, is essentially getting content created and collaborating with folks in this way. And then, of course, we can provide in all sorts of other ways. It could be recognition. It could be money, obviously. It could be some NFTs and hooking up folks like our Alpha Scouts. This is just another way that we're creating this cool, like, insider kind of club here that we're all raising this thing together. It's fun, man. Yeah.
Well, speaking of Alpha Scouts, that was another thing that we systematized just yesterday, actually. And I believe it came, I think it was also from Jake. I think this was another system idea from Jake, where before our Alpha Scouts, we have a small community of Alpha Scouts. We're only at like maybe 10 Alpha Scouts total right now. These are the people that are out digging up the news and the Alpha, and then they're getting a lot of shout outs for us. And they're also first in line when we get free NFTs and assets to give away and stuff. We give them to the Alpha Scouts first, and then the Alpha Club, when we have larger quantities, get the Alpha, get those NFTs as well. So the Alpha Scouts are sort of that first in priority line. And we had a Discord channel for Alpha Scouts, and before, everybody was just kind of going in and they're posting links. They'd find a cool news article, they'd post it. They'd find a cool tweet, they'd post it. And there wasn't a lot of context around these posts, so you just kind of sifted through all these links and news and stuff that was getting posted in this Alpha Scouts channel. Well, Jake had the idea of, why don't we send them to a forum instead, and then have them actually, answer some questions so we can get exactly what we want in the Alpha Scouts channel. So now we're asking them for the link to whatever the alpha is, to give the alpha a title, Dr. Disrespect moves into crypto, right? Like a title like that kind of goes, ooh, I want to pay attention to this. And then also we ask them, why is this alpha? So we don't get any no context links in that Alpha Scouts area anymore. So now when somebody wants to feed alpha to us, they go and fill out a Google form. This Google form is set up in Zapier, where whenever somebody submits alpha in that form, it then posts the alpha back into the Discord. So anytime alpha is submitted, the people that are in the Alpha Scouts community automatically see the post with all the details they need to know. But the really cool thing is this, because it's a Google form, it actually sends all of the alpha, all of those answers, into a giant Google spreadsheet for us. So now every week we have just a Google spreadsheet that's just getting added to and added to and added to with all of the alpha and news from the week. So when we're ready to jump on an LFG Live, or when Buff is running a Hard Fork radio and looking for some alpha to share, he can literally just go look at this spreadsheet and start going down the list and going, there's some alpha I want to share, there's some alpha I want to share, and it's all organized into a Google spreadsheet. So that's a little behind the scenes like system that we literally just built yesterday to clean up how we're actually receiving and filtering through alpha.
Bro, it's like everything is getting more systemized by the day, and that one, if we can, shout people out, automate it. I mean, there's so many automations here, and just to take away, if you're using Discord and all these other things, always remember Zapier as the integration tool to help connect some of that stuff up, because you can make magic work. So definitely dialing in your systems and thinking about how things can connect. Zapier is that tool that still is like the glue. It's like the super glue of tech,
Oh, dude, there's so much you can do with Discord in it too. We have it. We actually have it set up so with Zapier right now, when somebody goes or when we tweet something on Hard Fork Gaming, it automatically posts to through Zapier to our Discord. When a new YouTube video goes live, it automatically posts to our Discord through Zapier. Whenever anybody signs up to our Discord channel over at hardfork.gg/Discord, whenever anybody signs up to our Discord channel, we actually get we have a spreadsheet that kind of updates the spreadsheet anytime somebody new signs up with their Discord ID, and that way I can go and see, are they on our email list? Did they sign up for the Hard Fork Alpha Club? Oh, they did. So I can actually connect the dots because I'm using Zapier. So just some little behind the scenes automations and systems we're setting up to keep the ball rolling and to sort of take us out of the day-to-day minutia, right? Like all of that stuff we were doing manually. We used to get into Discord and filter through the alpha and, delete some of the stuff that we didn't really like. And then when it came to LFG Live, we're sitting there scrolling through Discord. All right, what's relevant? What's not relevant? And
it's
now
all the
it's just
sorting and sifting. Yeah.
And it's just all the minutia's off our plate now. So we focus on hit and record.
And the idea, again, to give value to the alpha scouts that are actually in there providing, because there's not a lot of folks in there, but if you do want to be an alpha scout, let us know. Yeah, because that definitely is a part where you're getting access to all this alpha instantly right there in Discord. And this process is going to clean all that up for you as well. So it's just going to help everyone is to organize this process. So that's a system. So if you have that's just a great way to aggregate information and then share it with an audience. That's essentially what that system is for us. And now the next system is all about content. As you think that we would have this perfectly dialed in, but this has been a work in progress for ever since the beginning of Hard Fork Gaming, which is basically have a content calendar and then also a system that would help us deliver that content on schedule. Now we've been having that, but now it's getting a lot more set in stone, or at least putting some nice frameworks around things. And again, shout out to Jake from Steak Farm. And the guy is now using Asana, and we're all collaborating in that to essentially put a framework of all the different shows that we have going out. Like Matt mentioned the schedule earlier, we have Hustle and Flowchart happening now every Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific. And then you have Hard Fork Radio. Right now we're looking at Thursdays at around 12:30 or 12. I think you have 12:30 here, Matt.
This is an example schedule that I posted here. I had a little explanation lined up here. So with the example schedule, we're doing Hustle and Flowcharts every Tuesday at 11. But once we go to LFG Live every Thursday, Hard Fork Radio is actually going to shift to Tuesday, right?
That's right.
Right now we're doing Hard Fork Radio every other Thursday, and we're doing LFG Live the opposing Thursdays. But once LFG Live moves to every Thursday, an example schedule on Tuesday would be like Hustle and Flowchart Live is 11 a.m. And then we kind of play some music as we roll out of the episode, and then Buffalo gets all set up and he rolls in, takes it over, and starts doing Hard Fork Radio. Keeps the party moving after Hustle and Flowchart. And then Thursdays we have LFG Live. And then the cool thing is, as you're about to say, is now we've created all of this content. We've created content on Hustle and Flowchart. You can't see it on our audio here, but Joe and I actually record video too. We can see each other. We're on camera. We have like a little backdrop, and our Twitter handles and stuff are in front of us. So we actually record video when we do these podcasts as well. We almost never use the video, but we have it in case something funny happens, or there's a little like rant that Joe or I go on that we want to clip out as a little, 1 minute short or something like that. We have the video just in case, right? So we've got that. We've got Hard Fork Radio that Buff records every week. We've got LFG Live, which is roughly an hour-long show with tons of content. We do blockchain space interviews once a week, and we release those on Friday. All of that is just this giant database of content, right? And It hasn't really been systematized until now. We're just kind of like, oh shoot, we haven't done this one yet this week, and then we would sort of jump on it.
Right, and that's where Asana, because we're using Notion for a lot of things, but it lacks in terms of project management, recurring tasks, and things like that, where you can calendar things out, but really when it becomes to recurring tasks and all that stuff, that's where the breaking point was for us. So we chose Asana to go move everything that way, and essentially, we're going to plug in our big shows, but also we can have a view of all the different repurposed clips in the segments that are plucked out from those shows. Like LFG Live, for instance, last week, that show was 57 minutes, but I think we came out with 7 segments from that hour-long show that we can now create so many different pieces of content with. We've already had it all clipped up by our editor. So essentially what we did is we have each segment clipped up now, and we tacked on an outro, which is kind of a call to action to hardfork.gg/alpha. So that's always the main call to action. But the whole point now is we can post these clips to Twitter. We could post them to YouTube, create some Twitter threads, which is what we're going to start doing now with these LFGs. Live clips is create threads. I mean, there's a lot of cool Twitter growth hacks that we're going to start implementing on the back of content we're already creating. We're just kind of packaging it up differently. And this Asana calendar is essentially going to have a recurring kind of schedule or posting schedule for a lot of these pieces of content outside of the bigger shows. So all that to say is finally we'll be dumping all of this craziness from our minds, our 3 brain is what we call it here. And then we have Jake and Dwayne as well. Those guys work as kind of like a duo, so if you ever see them in Discord, give them hell.
Give them love. No, don't give them hell. Give them love.
Give love.
They're simply the best.
That's right. We don't have that toasty though. Dang it.
I don't have the button clip yet.
That's for
I need that. Send it over to me.
Yeah. So that's the idea with getting Asana dialed in and really using these systems, because it's easy to talk about these systems and build them out. It's not always easy to build them out. It's the hardest thing is to use them and stay consistent. And that's I think that's the only way this podcast is run, is because we have some simple systems that keep us running on schedule. So that's what we're doing with the network at Hard Fork Gaming.
Yeah,
it's
speaking of systems, we got a rundown, right? Like, this is something that we never really did. So we've been doing Hustle and Flowchart for over 5 years now. Over 5 years now. We've never done rundowns. Since we started going live, our last 3 episodes, we actually have a rundown in front of us of what we're going to talk about on the episode. Like, 5 years in, we finally have rundowns.
Dude, I mean, and there's a lot to this rundown, but it's rad. And we do that on LFG Live as well. So on those shows, I'm more the host. I am the host of that show, and essentially I'm just looking at the rundown the whole time. Like I'm keeping an eye on the rundown. It's just an Excel sheet in Google or Google Sheet, super simple. And it has something like, 10 to 15 lines of just all the different segments and the points that we're talking about. And, it's actually the rundown we have for this podcast is way more in depth than the rundown on LFJ Live. But we have so much more. Like, we're so synced up that, and Buff, I know you're listening. Thanks for introducing that concept of a rundown, because that completely changed everything of how we run a show. And the fact that we could do it live and produce a show that feels like it's been edited, and there's kind of like this flow and cadence to it too. It just feels a lot easier to produce as a creator. Yeah.
No, it's interesting. Like, even on LFG Live, like, we all have roles, right? Like you just mentioned, you're the host of the show. It's really like Joe's role on that show to make sure the show keeps on moving forward. We're moved to the next segment. When there's silence, Joe's the first one to jump in. When he keeps the rhythm of the show moving forward and making sure we're staying on track with the rundown that we have in front of us, right? Buff's role is more on the production side. He's sitting there, whatever you see on camera, he's the one pressing the button to switch to camera. When you're hearing music in the background, he's playing that music. When we roll clips, he's the one that's rolling the clip. He's pretty much handling the production side, and then I'm pulling a lot of stuff up on screen most of the time. So if we have interviews or Joe's talking, I'm looking for stuff to pull up on screen so that Buff can take my screen and overlay whatever I'm looking at as B-roll. So everybody has a role the whole time we're on that LFG live. So if you're ever watching LFG live and I'm looking off to the side or Buff's looking off to the side, it's because each person has got a role to play in that show. And, you know, Joe's the host moving it forward, and Buff and I are sitting there making sure that the visuals and the audio and everything you're seeing on screen are cool as well. And we've never really had that kind of structure either. All of our shows, we're just kind of like, let's just press the button and see what comes out. And this structure just makes everything, it just makes it a lot less stressful coming into show days, right? We jump into a show day and we're just kind of like, we know what we got to do.
It makes life easy, honestly, like walking into these shows and really, I don't know, we know what to do once there's a rundown, and we're so immersed in this content, which is something that you're going to hear NFTYQ talk about in one of our segments, which I want to get to with the first one, is essentially immersing yourself. Immersing? Jeez, I can't say that word. Immersing. There you go. and really, that's why I think we can pull this stuff off live, is that we're so immersed in this stuff. And the rundown just keeps us a little bit more focused.
For sure.
Keeps those bumpers on.
One other thing I was going to say, too, that we're about to do, and this will just be a real quick thing, and we'll jump over to Q after this. But
cool.
One real quick thing is we're actually going to start doing a little bit more Twitch streaming, too, where it's just off the cuff. Like, we just hook up our computers, jump into a game on Twitch, and just start messing around, because that's just even more content, right? One of the things we're trying to do in our videos is show more gameplay footage, and we don't want to, you know, go and rip it all from the trailers like we've done on a lot of videos, or find other YouTubers that are talking about it and pull some of the clips from their YouTube videos. You know, we want to actually be playing the games and getting in there ourselves. So we're planning on doing more Twitch streams where we're just in the game messing around and talking about our experience in the game, but all of that becomes content. All of that becomes B-roll that we can use on our game breakdowns, on our LFG Live. All of that becomes stuff that we can put into our community chest of content that people can edit. So that's another thing that we're going to start experimenting with. But, you know, full transparency, don't know shit about Twitch yet. So
we don't know nothing. We talked to the main man, Justin Kahn. He founded the dang thing. We got the backstory, but we don't know what the hell we're doing on Twitch. So, all right, moving on.
Yeah, all right. So why don't you set up this clip for Nifty Q?
Actually, you know what? I'm going to do Audible, Matt.
Okay.
You said MetaSports Joe. He's about 2 minutes or so, right? 2 or 3 minutes.
I don't
Let's
remember.
play his, because I know he's talking more about content than I think it'll be a good segue. Let's roll Joe.
Yeah. So Joe at MetaSports, we talked a little bit about how content creators are going to shift it in the role that you as a content creator should be playing to really make this transition. So this is Joe. Do you remember his last name?
I'm not going to pronounce it correctly, unfortunately.
Okay. So this is Joe from MetaSports.
My name is Joe Hoswa, one of the founders and the current CEO of MetaSports. Last year, you know, it was a bull run. So everyone was more interested in the financialization and the earnings part of the games. When I think what's happening now is that, you know, the games that raised money last year, now is the time where it's going to really show if a game is good. All these games launching this half of the year with their alpha versions, meta versions, are going to be judged on a different scale. The people who are creating content now are really going to be people who matter for gaming and Web3 related, because it's not solely about the financialization, but really about the games themselves, or the larger picture of the game. Competitive gaming doesn't really care as much about the finances. Other than that, it's about the spirit of the competition, the lore, the people behind the talent, who are the organizations and the guilds who are supporting the infrastructure to be able to play. Content will gravitate towards the greater picture of the game, and Web3 related assets, NFTs, technology will be a way to augment certain parts of it. But you understand, a lot of the greater gaming market is not here. They don't hate the experience. They're not here to want to own more of a game studio or publisher studio or decide if a game will last longer. They do this to escape. It's really purely recreation. So a lot of my friends are, you know, excellent gamers and passionate, successful people who I try to convince to go into the space. You know, they don't even hate it. It's more of like, you know, I don't think it's broken. I get to do my amazing job or my good job or my satisfied job, and I get to go home and I get to play my games happily. I get to cycle through different games. And then you couple that experience, which is probably the experience of most gamers, with what you see in the media, which is true, that many gamers who've gotten to play to earn or the hype at the height of the run lost a lot of money. You couple that with another stack of crypto and people having lost more money from even before that through crypto. But if you look at that level, it really looks like a bad thing for gaming, right? It's like, why are people trying to mess with what already works for me? Why do players have to own more of the games? I'm fine spending on my assets. It's disposable income for recreation. Why do I need to be able to resell my assets? And if you really work in gaming, you see the frustration in a lot of communities in games that don't have the ability to survive, despite the community who's so passionate about it, because it runs on Web2 rails that really has the control on one end. It doesn't allow community empowerment to help a game or community last longer. And it's really up to us who are in the space to navigate the technology, navigate the features. And our end, for us, like all of us in content, do a good job telling the actual value. Gamers are the most unforgiving market I've ever had to work with. If gamers don't like your game, it doesn't matter what you do, how much marketing you spend, they just won't play your game. They don't give a crap. Like, they will be honest on Reddit, they're empowered, and they will just move on. That fuels me. There's something about it that makes it feel more real. If we do a campaign or do content or esports for a game and it sticks, it's because the gamers really freaking care about it.
Yeah, man. That's Joe's got he's got a good perspective, because I know Joe's tapped in big time in to a bunch of guilds, the gaming guilds, gaming projects, blockchain space. Peter Ng, buddy of ours and partner. Yeah,
I think a big point that he's making that I think we all agree with here at Hard Fork is that the traditional gamers, right? The people that are out there that just love games, right? Like, you know, here at Hard Fork, we're all big fans of Valheim, right? Like, that's one of our escapes. We're like, hey, we just had a great LFG live today. Let's go play some Valheim. Right? Like, that's one of the big games that we like to escape with, and it's not on the blockchain, right? We spent money on it. We paid money. We play that game. We enjoy it. It's not a blockchain game. And I think that's the point. Gamers don't care about the fact that it's blockchain. Gamers want to play a freaking fun game. Gamers want to play a game that they enjoy playing. And all of the content creators that are out there right now, I'm not going to name any names. We all know who they are. All the content creators out there right now are sort of leaning into the fact, hey, it's a blockchain game. This is a blockchain game. Hey, this is a crypto game. This is on Polygon. This is on that. Stop talking about that shit. Talk about how fun the game is. Is this game enjoyable to play? Do you like playing it? Do you get lost in it? Do you want to spend hours in it? Do you want to show it off to your kids? Do you want to get friends over and do a LAN party and play this game with them? Right? That's what the gamers actually give a shit about. And that's what I feel like the big point is there is, as content creators, our role shouldn't be selling them on why blockchain is good. We should be selling them on this game is badass, but also, because this blockchain thing is here, you also get this benefit in the game, right?
Bingo.
Like, sell the freaking fun first.
It's fun first, and the blockchain seems to me it's the integrated piece. It's technology. That's the NFTs. That's where you can own assets if you wish to, like, if that's the thing. But really, it just integrates seamlessly, and that's not the leading factor. It's the fun, and yeah, that's going to get people talking about it. It's a smaller group of people are going to be interested in the financial part of it, albeit very important, of course, but that's not the mass adopter thing that's going to bring people over here. So Joe's on spot with that for sure. It's the escape.
Yeah, and that sort of is a decent segue into like this next little segment that we were going to talk about here about content creation in the bear market.
There you go.
And like this is a topic that's kind of come up in this household a few times, is those of us that are creating right now in this bear market, those of us that are talking about the Synergy Lands of the world, the Big Times of the world, the Dead Drops of the world, the Gala Games, the Animoca brands, the Fractals, those of us that are talking about these up and coming game, brands out there, we're going to be seen as the OGs in a little bit when these games become like more mainstream, when some of them eventually break out and become mainstream. I think Dead Drop could be the one to break it out, but when these games really break out and become mainstream, people are going to go and be like, dude, Matt, Joe, Buff, those guys, they were all talking about that shit. Sorry.
Don't let it go to your head, Matt.
Eflo, Kokomo, and Buff. They were all back there talking about that stuff, right? No, but the point is, there's so few people creating content in this space right now, and there's so few viewers for this kind of content right now that when it becomes mainstream, people are going to look back and be like, those guys were building even when it wasn't cool.
It's true, man. And that's where actually, Nifty Q, and shout out to him. I saw him in Twitter just now too, or earlier. I'm not looking now. He's going to be the next segment coming up here, because he actually specifically speaks into content creation in the bear market and how it's a different type of narrative and content being talked about. There's different intentions even from the project owners and what they're focusing on. as compared to a bull market, of course. And we just got out of one of those. He has experience in both of those because he heads up LADZ City, which, Buff was over there for a long time. We were over there doing content together too. Great folks. Definitely go check them out. And they have a content network. They see the value. NiftyQ sees the value in this whole thing. And there's a reason why we're all building these networks and creating. It's a bigger trust. If we could show different perspectives and have a more of a community feel throughout this whole thing, I think we're going to push all this forward. And there's an interesting chat with NiftyQ coming up here. But anything else before on our perspective of creating content in the bear?
I think right now, like what we're doing here at Hard Fork is we're just perfecting our craft right now. Ooh. We know there's not a lot of we know there's not a ton of viewers, right? Like we see our YouTube numbers, like a good video will get 1,000, maybe a really good video will get 2,000 views, right? So like we know our YouTube numbers. We're not at the tens, hundreds of thousands of views where we want to be. We know where our Twitter account is right now. We know we've been like hovering right around a number that we've struggled to break this plateau, right? But we know that there's a lot that we're just so new in this space, right? We're just so damn early.
Everybody. Yeah.
And there's so little of what we're creating out there right now that I just, I think we're on the right track, but I also feel like I'm rambling. So let's just set up the NiftyQ clip.
Yeah, we're rambling, but let's just wrap it up because like I feel, well, not wrap it up, but say like everyone is creating something new right now. And Nifty's even he's gonna say that in this clip here, and Buffalo's in there as well, is how projects have had to shift during this bear. So everyone's experimenting right now, and there's
we're just
some
like I said,
fun shit going on right now that we could still report on and have fun with, even though maybe not all these games are mass market. They're not fully out and playable, but they're sure as hell there's demos starting to drop pretty consistently now.
Yeah, and I mean, right now is the time that we're just like I mentioned, we're perfecting the craft. We may not have 100,000 views on our videos, but you know what? We're gonna spend this time figuring out how do we make the videos a little bit better. How do we upgrade the quality a little bit? How do we upgrade the audio quality? How do we get more reach? How do we we're just gonna keep on chipping away at how do we make this side that we can control better. And then when the market does come into this space, boom, we're at the peak of our game when they finally come in.
Patience is a virtue. Yes.
You're right, go ahead and set up this NiftyQ clip because I actually have not even heard this clip yet.
What, Matt?
So I'm gonna hear it for the first time on this episode.
We pretty much set it up already, which is actually nice. So through the course of what we've been talking about, it's perfectly set up. So this chat, we did a record, I think it was last week with NiftyQ, again, over at LADZ City. And you can check out all his shows over there, and he shouts it out. But Buff is doing kind of the driving of this interview because some tech issues that I had on my side, but we have resolved those. But yeah, let's go play this clip, and you're going to hear his perspective, NiftyQ's perspective of the space, but also keep in mind that he's a content creator. He didn't start off as a content creator in this space, but you'll see why he does and continues to do, and he's building out a bigger and badder network, better, whatever. Yeah. Let's get into this clip and take it away with NiftyQ.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's NiftyQ. I am the founder of NFT Live and LADZ City. We are going to have a great discussion here today. I've been in the space about 5 years. At that time, it was a absolute Wild West. Like I know we talk about having the Wild West now, but back then it was just no holds barred, fucking 6 shooters in the streets, like craziness. And I was super interested in it. I loved the decentralization of it. I loved the aspect of like you could really pull yourself up by your bootstraps. A little like probably what Silicon Valley was when it really first started. And now it's just a bunch of suits. This is what it gave me, at least initially. It was like an inkling of that. Of course, it wasn't on the scale of like a Silicon Valley, but it felt wide open and it felt right for the taking. So I got into crypto back then as an investor, and then we first started working together at a company called ICO Alert, where we were working primarily on listing ICOs. So I started to just interview dope people in the crypto space. There were no NFTs past CryptoKitties at the time. So I was just loving interviewing people on different proof of stake networks, on Ethereum, and just really enjoyed that. I'm not going to say it was easy. At that time, NFTs hadn't come around, like I said. So I had not like really hit any golden opportunities, as you would call it. And it was definitely a struggle. Like I wasn't making that much money. I would get, advertising money, sponsorship money here and there, but I was really living on the funds that I had made in the last cycle. So bear market interviews tend to have much more of like market condition questions to them, where like bull market questions are like, what projects are super hot? What project are you in that you're on my episode chilling me on? Bear market projects, nobody's raising a lot of funds, nobody's doing really that well, so everyone kind of goes into build mode, right? Like I'll ask, hey, like I haven't had you on, you guys have a dope product, would you love to come on my podcast? And they're like, oh no, we're heads down building. It's like, well, okay, but in 3 months when you guys have a product release and it's a bull market, you're going to come on. And that's pretty much how it runs. So the energy for a project spotlight is much bigger in a bull market. And as you know, like live shows hit harder in bull markets, but bear market interviews, I think, are have a little bit more longevity to them. Maybe we talk more about broad market conditions in a sense.
Definitely right. You get the real deal in the bear market, real conversations instead of just the hype or everyone in the euphoricness, as we know in 2021, which was a blur. Every interview, every project, insanity.
What really we get in the bull market are people that we hear from and then never hear from again, right? Like we've interviewed a ton of people on NFT Live when we were still kind of running that segment where we would bring a project in for a spotlight. Half of the projects that we interviewed during the bull market or more are probably just either not here or struggling more so than they thought they were. And that wasn't kind of the vibe of the interview at the time. It was like, holy shit, you guys are doing I hate to like use these guys, but like the Sandlot drop, for example, Sandbox for you, Buff, but the Sandlot, I don't even think those guys are in NFTs anymore.
I know,
like
right?
it's like that's a classic bull market interview. It's just no market talk, no blockchain talk. It was like, what are you guys dropping? Holy shit, it's so cool that you guys are from the Sandlot and you're here talking with us. It's like, that would never happen in a bear market.
Yeah. I mean, you get celebrities is something very interesting to look at from the last cycle. Who dabbled and how long did they stick in, if they're even still around, and how many rugged. And you look at, like, was it Al Borland from, the character that played Al Borland in Home Improvement, was about to do an NFT. And then he backed off at the last second. I bet you he's probably liking that he didn't do that, because you got to be all in, right? Because those boys in the Sandlot movie should have understood that when you do an NFT project, it lasts forever. Well, I'm curious for anyone, like they got in right when NFTs popped at the beginning of 2021 or the metaverse play. What, in your opinion, hasn't popped yet or even peaked or even had any kind of adoption in the sense of utilizing blockchain? What is coming, man? What do you see as a big thing, a big wave that could potentially be a summer or a seasonal thing, if you will?
That is one of the toughest questions to answer right now, is where do we go? We cover all these different sectors in NFTs on NFT Live, but they're all kind of experiencing the same thing. We haven't decoupled by any means outside of like the actual market. So for me to say like, what's the next thing? They all could, like if we have a turn in the traditional economy and we do all these things again, maybe we see what we saw in 2020 and in 2021 on juice, on steroids. Like that might be the play, so NFT music should, as much as I guarantee, if you had a conversation with a music head, they would be having the same things to say as we do about NFT gaming. Oh, it's not an if, it's a when. This technology deserves to be put into NFT music so that both creators and their fans can both profit, and it's a very synergistic relationship. So NFT music could definitely be a thing. PFPs, I already mentioned, I think will be a mainstay. The one thing in the conversation that I had with Gift Dead, who is awesome and he does his shows like almost daily at this point, was whether we will see an adoption of Web3 or NFTs, right? Like, and let me break that down real quick. It's like, will NFTs be the quote unquote ICOs of the other era, right? And I don't think it will be that way. ICOs had all these problems that, were going to make it so they weren't going to have any longevity. But is the world going to see the term Web3 and say, okay, this is the new internet? This is the new age where we can all be on blockchain, and maybe it's a little bit more, acceptable or digestible to this next cycle of adoption. Whereas NFTs might have this like feeling, the feeling you're talking about of like being a little bit too out there. I don't know what the answer is, and I know that was like a roundabout, way to say I have no fucking clue, but I don't really have an answer for you when it comes to like what is going to be up next. I think you have to make yourself a resident of this space. You have to actively choose to say, I'm going to be a resident of Web3. And then, therefore, how do I learn the language of this area, of this environment? I know it's ephemeral, it's not real, and as far as like a meat space thing, but we are essentially like on this huge continent where everything is happening, right? There's different communities that each having their own little tribe sector. But if you're a tourist, you're never going to do it. I'm half Mexican. I am 30 years old. I always said I was going to learn Spanish. And until I can immerse myself either in like an actual, that would really help if I could immerse myself in an actual geographical location, get dropped off in fucking Panama and say, go do it. I would learn the language and I would come out the other side understanding Spanish. It's the same thing in Web3. If you do not commit to being a resident, you're going to have a hard time surviving in this environment. And I say surviving because you could get really, really fucked in this environment. If you don't understand, the second best thing to do would be probably to find a really dope community, right? Like if I, using the Panama example, if I just dropped in by myself and, 6 months later, I'm still by myself, I probably had a lot of bumps and bruises. And maybe didn't make it at all. Maybe I quit or something like that. But if you find a dope community that can help you out, that would really, really, benefit you, which I think most of your followers understand. It's like the individuals who just get into this space. You have to be on Twitter. You have to read that shit daily. You have to start understanding the language that we speak, and then go find yourself a community. I hate Discord. I will be the first one to say I wish there was another option, but you have to then find a community that you want to get involved into. So those two things: be on Twitter, and then find yourself a community, learn the language, be a resident. I would follow me at NiftyQ. I would go to NFT Live. I would go to LADZ City. And then we do have a Discord on all of those Twitter profiles as well that you guys can jump in and say hi.
Go jump in and say hi.
What up?
Everybody should do that.
Go follow Nifty Q. He was hovering in the Twitter spaces earlier. Not sure if he's still there, but go find him in LADZ City. Go follow them folks because they're good folks. And yeah, man. I mean, he's got a good.
Nifty Q gets some great interviews, man. Like if you go listen to the Nifty Q show in particular, where he kind of does his longer form interviews. Woo wee.
Shout out to check out the Yatsu interviews he's done. They've always been rad. He's done a handful of them, and every time he interviews Yacht, I mean, I'm there listening because of just great questions, and then you have Yacht, with the great mind. So it's a good blend. But go check him out, and I just love the way that Q thinks about this space, his perspective, and the fact that he's still building content, and he's doing streams. I know he's doing some different type of things with his content, so there's a lot of experimenting happening. But you could see the value there is being a content creator and also having a great community, because that's what we've learned a lot. At Hard Fork is the community is a big piece. I know lads are doing it right there too. But any takeaways on your side, Matt? Since that was your first impression, right? Any thoughts?
Yeah, my thoughts are always that I love when I hear Q speak. Right, like his responses are so articulate. He's just like, I'm a fanboy of him. He's just he's very articulate. But yeah, no, like we're all on the same page here. Like we're all experimenting. We're all figuring this out as we go along. And we just, in the bear market, it's the time to build. Right, like that's what we were talking about before we ran the clip. This is where we build. This is where we perfect our craft. This is where we get shit dialed in and systems working and team members in place, and then when the bull happens, hold on for your dear freaking life, man.
You better have systems in place and automation so you're not burning out. And yeah, That's essentially it, man. We've been speaking about that, and we're like, you know what, this bear probably came at the perfect time for us, and I would bear to say, hopefully a lot of other folks are feeling it that way. Obviously, it hurts in a lot of ways, if you know, in a lot of circumstances. But either way, like, great time to build, great time to get the systems built, and hopefully this episode shined a light on some of the things that aren't so sexy in building a business or a Web3 project, which are basically the systems. You need them, unless you don't want a life. If you don't want a life. And be stressed out all the time and run around and not sleep, because they say crypto doesn't sleep. I hate that, by the way. Crypto better be sleeping. Build your systems, y'all.
Crypto
Come on.
doesn't sleep. Doesn't mean you don't have to.
That's true. That's attaboy. There we go. Let's separate us from the crypto. We are still human, y'all.
I am
Come
not
on.
crypto, Joe.
I am not.
I do
crypto.
not define myself as crypto.
There you go. So get your sleep, y'all. Get your sleep.
I don't identify as crypto.
Oh man! So expect more. We're
more.
gonna be doing a lot more behind the scenes every single week, obviously on this podcast. And
You want some alpha?
What's some alpha? What, you got some alpha?
I got some alpha. It might be alpha to some people. I mean, I think if you're deep into the gaming space, you already know this. This isn't fresh alpha for you.
True that. But what do you got?
Midnight Society, Dr.
Talk
Disrespect.
about it. Talk about it.
You heard about this one?
Oh, well, from you, because you. I mean, let's go. You're
All right,
fanboying.
so
again.
Dr.
It's the guy that
Disrespect-
looks just like you, man. I mean,
Yeah, back when
You
I had
might
the
be
mullet,
him.
I shaved the mullet like a month ago.
yeah, you did. That's true. It was huge. There was so much hair.
But yeah, so Dr. Disrespect, one of the most popular gaming streamers on the entire internets, like one of the biggest ones out there, he created a game studio called Midnight Society, and they just dropped a trailer for their new game called Dead Drop. They were calling it Project Moon, I believe, for a while. That was like their code name. But they dropped a trailer for it, and they revealed it's called Dead Drop. And then they dropped some gameplay footage of it, and it was insane. It was probably like the most detailed, like insane graphics I've ever seen. Somebody actually posted a screenshot on Twitter where they zoomed in on the gun that the guy was holding in the picture, and you could see the weld marks on the gun where like you could see it was welded together.
Jeez.
And it was just like the detail of the game was so crazy. And it's a first-person shooter game. And the reason I'm bringing this up because is if you're just sort of casual to like the gaming crypto world, and you know you've been listening to Hustle and Flowchart for a while, and you're just kind of like, what they're talking about is a little bit interesting. This is the game to pay attention to right now, because Dr. Disrespect is a massive gaming streamer, like massive, huge gaming streamer, and he's building this game, and he's doing it using Polygon, which is crypto. So this is probably the first big game that's going to go mainstream in the crypto space, just because if Dr. Disrespect is behind it and he's streaming it and he's not leaning too heavily into the crypto side of it, crypto's an element, but he's not leaning into that. He's leaning into the like quality of the game. This game, I think, has the potential to be massive. So just something to keep an eye on, everybody.
Yeah, and this is something where we actually talked about this with Nifty Q. It didn't make the clip just now, but I'll kind of reiterate Q's thoughts and also the discussion that was happening about this and why this is big news, is because we were talking about the crossover of traditional gamers moving into crypto or Web3, but at the end of the day, we talked about it again. It's kind of this integration thing. You know, it's not like us versus them and blah, blah, blah. I mean, it can be, I guess, if you want it to be that way. But I don't think that's where the main adoption is going to happen with that friction. It's got to be seamless or integrated somehow. So Midnight Society is a game studio, and it's a AAA game studio. That's how they describe themselves. And so they have a publishing model with the community on the back of a KOL. You know, in freaking Jesus, Dr. Disrespect. I was looking at his real name, so I was getting thrown off. It's Guy Beam. Beam? Is that how you say it? Yeah.
Guy Beam.
Beam. So, yeah, basically they have a whole studio and a whole bunch of developers, other KOLs, and you know, people with audiences. So this is going to be interesting, and this is just the first of many games with that crazy quality. And with the crypto kind of like integration of what you can do with tokens within something like Midnight Society, potentially, maybe that becomes a bigger project to be associated with. It looks like they have founders access passes, you know, like there's a lot of stuff happening. So keep your eyes there, y'all. It's big time. I think
Yeah.
that's going to be a bigger adoption type of play right there, is someone like that with a studio, with their own assets, with a community, and they're just kind of like, they got that trust,
Yeah.
and they're going to bring it all over here.
Well,
and
as a
we'll see.
wise man who lives in this house often says, is everything's alpha to someone. And
Mr.
I
Bear?
feel like, yeah, Mr. Bear. Exactly, Mr. Bear.
Right.
No, Buffalo always says that pretty much everything's alpha to somebody, right? And I think if you're deep in the gaming space, you're one of the crypto KOLs that is tuning into this show. You know, all the KOLs tune into this, key opinion leaders.
Every single
influencers.
one of them.
They all tune into the show. If you're one of those people, you're probably well familiar with Midnight Society and Dead Drop by now. But those that are casually kind of on the sidelines watching the gaming stuff, that is alpha. Like, check that game out. That's going to be huge. And
Yeah.
that's all I got to say about that. So, real quick, Rhino actually suggested we create a system
Saw
cheat
that.
sheet. That's something
Good
that might be on
idea.
the radar. Yeah, that's something
It's a
we
great
might
idea.
do for Alpha Club members. So, thanks for the idea. And other than that, I think
Dude, this was a
let's
money.
wrap this one up. Let's tie a little bow around it.
Well, I will tie the cutest little bow ever. I don't know how to tie bows or knots, so that's why I never passed Boy Scouts. Is that something you can pass? I don't know. Badges, right?
Yeah,
You
mean
did that
never made
thing.
it to Eagle Scout?
Heck, yeah. Did you?
No.
Oh man. All right. That's why we're podcasting. That's all right. We could do this.
Yeah.
Kind of. So yeah, we talked about a lot on this episode, of course, and I want to shout out our friends and partners again over at Animoca Brands doing all the cool stuff. Check out the Benji Bananas and the Moto GP. Like we chatted about, there's some cool giveaways and events happening. And then also go check out the content we're doing with Blockchain Space, because we're posting something weekly on YouTube, but also on Twitter and all that stuff. So go follow Blockchain Space and our stuff. And check out more interviews and deeper dives with people like NFTYQ, Ronan the Collector. We've had Crypto Stash and some other folks. We got a whole bunch more planned too. So you'll get all the kind of fresh alpha there on those chats, along with everything else we're doing. And if you have not signed up for our alpha club, you got to go do that and then join the Discord and then, you know, basically get hooked up into all the cool shows we're doing. Go to hardfork.gg/alpha. Again, that's hardfork.gg/alpha, and that gets you in the know. And that's all I got. What you got? You done, Matt? You
That's
done?
it.
All right, we're done here.
I think that is a wrap there. And if you're hanging out live, continue to hang out, because as you know, this might be the end of the podcast recording, but we like to hang out and keep going. So we're going to keep going with this show for a little bit. And
we got
thanks for joining
jams.
us.